The president said the White House has undergone renovations before, so it was rebuilt in 1817 after the British troops set it on fire during the War of 1812. They burned almost the thing to the ground. Now, then you go to 1902, and you get a renovation by Theodore Roosevelt. It's now known as the West Wing, where the president, the East Wing has been traditionally the First Lady's department. The West Wing, of course, is the president's, and that was remodeled in that for the Oval Office. And then you get the interior being redone completely, and the exterior, and the Truman balcony, as it's now known, being from 1949 to 1952. So this is perhaps a sizable renovation with the balcony. In all of these cases, the works were either a structural necessity or planned well in advance with enormous amounts of consultation. Arguably, the Trump's ballroom on a different scale because the consultation didn't exist, the plans weren't released, no details were given about the East Wing being destroyed. The historian John A. Lawrence joins me from Philadelphia, and I'll caveat, you were, sir, Chief of Staff to former Democratic House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, but even so, your historical credentials are spectacular. So tell me, why are people up in arms about this?
Well, the East Wing is a historic part, an iconic part of the White House complex. It is the section of the White House that visitors would come through traditionally for public events and tours. It's been used by first ladies for 100 years, by key White House staff people. And it was built like the West Wing, as you mentioned, in proportion to the White House. It sits down lower than the building. It doesn't obstruct the main White House itself. An enormous contrast to what the president is doing, as well as you mentioned, Richard, the manner in which he's building this ostentatious addition to the building, which is bigger than the White House itself.
So, with that in mind, you describe it. You're on the record as describing it as being sending a message of a maniacal, autocratic concept of what the job is and what his role is. This can always be filed under, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should.
Exactly. There is a process for doing this. When President Truman, for example, renovated the inside, basically gutted the White House during his administration, that was done. He set up a commission with the Congress. There was extensive public comment. There was special appropriations set up. That's a completely different world than this sort of this secretive effort that the president's obviously gone through. He obviously lied to the American people by saying specifically that the White House would not be damaged. Not only damaged, he destroyed, he removed the entire West Wing. So it's not public. It's being financed by multi-billionaires who have vast corporate business interests before the administration and regulatory agencies. It bears no resemblance whatsoever to any of the improvements or minor modifications that have been done in the past.
If we look, for example, also at the paving over of the Rose Garden and the way in which, that's now looks like the patio at Mar-a-Lago. I suppose what I'm trying to do is avoid the pearl clutching, gosh, this is awful because it's change. Gosh, this is dreadful because, it's a different taste and I just don't like it. We have to go beyond that, don't we, to an extent, John, to understand why the critics are angry about this, why you are upset about this.
Well, I think part of it is the cost. You said 200 million. They've recently re-upped that to 300 million. If it's like other Trump construction projects, it'll be more than that. And I think that's part of it, Richard. It's the secretive way. It's the way this is being done imperiously, without the ordinary processes, without the notification of the Congress or the press or the public. Look, the president says that presidents have wanted this for 150 years. I don't think that's true. I don't think there's anything remotely like that. But you know what? If they need a big place to hold events, and maybe they do, 4 blocks away from the White House is the Mellon Ballroom, which is as extravagant a ballroom hold 700 people, and you could hold an event in it every day for the next 17 years at the current rental rate and still not come up with the cost of the Trump expansion.
Right. You're well attuned to what the public wants and likes. How do you think Americans are going to, in the longer run, view this? I can see it going one of two ways. The Trump ballroom gets put up and everybody, half the country says, magnificent, it looked glamorous, wonderful. And the other half, horrified like they are with the Oval Office, with all the new gold and glitz in there.
Look, I think once it's there, it's there. It's not going to be torn down, and so people will accommodate it. Whether or not they'll try to tone down the bling or not, one doesn't. I suspect that all the gold affectation that the president's added to the Oval Office probably doesn't have a very long life expectancy after he leaves the White House. But a big building of this sort Washington is going to have to accommodate it, and it's going to exist, and other presidents are going to use it clearly. Look, like everything else in the United States these days, it breaks down along partisan lines. But I think there are quietly in Congress and the architectural and historic preservation community, a lot of heads are being buried in hands today looking at this monstrosity that this bling-obsessed president puts up, despite formal processes for how you go about making modifications to something as important as the White House.
I'm glad to have you with us tonight, sir. Thank you for joining us.